We are going to begin the funeral service for Lisa Rae Digati. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it in the silent mode or turn it completely off at this time. I'd also like to welcome friends and extended family via live stream and attending for the family today. Thank you. Services will be conducted by Hazan Stephen Stower of Congregation Beth Shalom in Northbrook.
Every day of the week, when we begin our prayer services in synagogue, there's a psalm, and it's a different psalm every day of the week. Today's psalm ends with these words, Leman tisapru ledor acharon, tell her story to the generations to come. The psalmist is speaking at that time of the Holy Temple in the city of Jerusalem that had been destroyed, and the temple had been destroyed. And it kept their optimism, it kept their sense of hope alive, continue to tell the story of what seems to have been destroyed and taken from us, because one day we shall build it again. And we have to keep alive the story of the beauty and the majesty of our city, of our temple. And the same goes for today's ceremony, today's tribute service for Lisa. We have to tell her story, because to stop telling her story is to forget. And we know, God forbid, that we should ever forget. And so we stand here today beginning to tell a portion of her life story. As the family and I discussed, we can't tell the entire breadth of her life, sadly as short as it became, because it was just too filled with love and friendship and laughter and so many lovely things. But we will do our share to honor her. We also know that friends and family here and watching have sent loving emails and tributes about Lisa to the family. We will not be able to honor those by reading them within the service today, but they will be posted on Lisa's memorial page through Chicago Jewish Funerals, through this memorial chapel. And others can read those posts at their leisure. And we thank you for sending those beautiful words. Some of the words of our history are things that we turn to in times of sadness. Oftentimes, the book of Psalms. The psalm within your pamphlet is the 23rd psalm that most of us have heard at least a part of, no matter our religious faith. It says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Why don't you take it and read along with me, and then I'll chant it in the Hebrew. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointed my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, benot sheyar b'tzeini al mei menuchot yinahaleli. Nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech b'getz hamavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha u'mishantecha hema yenachamuni. Tarach lefonai shulecha neged sorerai dishanta v'Hashem en roshi kosi revaya אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, משבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. My soul I give to you. My spirit is in God's care. Draw me near and I shall not fear. Hold me in your hands. Draw me near and I shall not fear. I'm now safely in God's hand. The book of Psalms continues to say, Karov Adonai lenishbarei lev ve'etake ruach yoshia, that God is close to the brokenhearted, and God shall help those who are crushed of spirit. I'd like everybody to move over a seat to your right and make room for God. God's got a lot of helping to do. There's a lot of you don't literally have to do it. Some of you are wonderfully obedient, and it was very sweet that you did so. When I said he's close to everyone, I was simply alluding that we're going to have to make room. But God bless you for making room. And maybe we need that space. We need to let God in, because I don't blame you if you're trying to shut God out right now. It's very difficult to talk about theology in a moment like this. And thus, I'm not going to try to do that. I'm not going to act as God's defense attorney today, explaining how this was a greater plan of God's that we just can't as humans comprehend. And I have no justifiable religious excuse to explain this senseless loss of life. I'm merely here to help shepherd the family through one of life's most difficult times, the loss of a child and other relative to many of you, obviously, a sister, a cousin, a dear friend, a loving person, an aunt, all of the things that she was to so many of you. It's a horrible day. This is not the way any of us would wish the year to have ended. Nor would any of us wish for this to have been how Lisa's life would have ended. There are three salient points to make. She was too young. This may have been preventable. And this COVID plague, which, Joel, I won't quote you exactly on the terms you used when you talked to me about the plague. This plague has stolen too many lives. When I referred to the 23rd Psalm, you read along with me, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. You, Lisa's family, have been overcome by a shadow of death. You are in your valley. You are in a depression, out from which it seems impossible to climb. And yet the psalmist says, I shall get through the valley of the shadow. And so shall you. You shall not come out the other side unscathed or unchanged, for you shall forever be changed. You will forever wear a scar of absence. You will forever miss her laughter and her love. How then are you supposed to get through it? Note, I didn't say you'll get over it, for you shall never get over it. But you shall learn in time to get on with life, and you shall carry Lisa's love and memory along with you. Her Hebrew name is Ranana. It comes from the Hebrew root word to rejoice. It's one of the first words of the Friday evening Sabbath liturgy that we sing, Lehu neranena, Ranana. It says, come and let us sing and rejoice. While today is not a day you feel like rejoicing, we shall yet sing her praises. and celebrate the place she held in your lives. Though she moved away from Chicago some 30 years ago, I was talking to her cousin Jamie the other day, and she recalled with delight the many years of sharing life and holidays together as their small little clique of 6. She spoke of Lisa's strong-mindedness as well as her outgoing nature. That is the manner of permanent touch after all these years of only periodic times together. And yet she remembers that permanent touch that Lisa left on her and others. Lisa held on to friends from her earliest days. I was told that she and Michelle had a very lovely, lovely bond. And there was Melissa, who she labeled her second little sister. There was also a dear friend, Laura, who meant the world to her and with whom I believe she became roommates. And I believe you have some words to share with us today. Please come forward.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. My name is Laura. I've been Lisa's friend for over 40 years. We all knew her. She was kind, generous, was the life of every party, and had the best laugh. Her $1 million smile lit every room. When I met her, we immediately became lifelong friends through the good times and the bad. She had Mr. Glabman's effervescent personality and Mrs. Glabman's beauty and style. I was smitten with her family. I can remember sitting in her family room for hours watching MTV. We went to so many concerts together. Steve, remember going to see Peter Gabriel? And you and my brother ended up on stage with the band dancing and singing. And then Lisa and I saw him in the city somewhere. One of the most memorable trips I ever had was in high school. Jerry Schroeder, who couldn't be here today, is watching. And Lisa and Kurt Meyer, who came. Lisa would be so happy to see you. Jerry's sister was getting married in California. And it was a house that she rented, which was a mansion. It took us 3 flights to get there. Remember, Lisa? There were, one of the things that stuck out was there was a lot of the rooms weren't being used, and we lost power at night because there was a storm. And the 7 of us, there were 7 friends who went, and we walked through the house in candlelight, opening the doors and closets. We thought the place was haunted. And we had the time of our life. We swam in the Sacramento River and floated around Whiskeytown Lake and created the best memories that we would always laugh about when we got together years later. We got along so well, we decided to rent an apartment together in Des Plaines. I'd be there to hear her stories when she came home from working at Churn & Shoes, complaining about smelly, gross feet. So she decided to put her personality to good use and entered the food and beverage industry. Her personality spawned an abundance of cash tips. Aside from serving, she was the best cocktail waitress in Des Plaines. Our apartment was across Gulf Road from Oliver's, the local nightclub. Dancing in the 80s was Lisa's and my favorite thing to do. I swear she attracted every guy who wore Drakkar Noir. We lived together for a few years until she met Phil, got married, and moved out of state. Her relationships took her to Phoenix, Wisconsin, and Texas. I always asked her to come home to Chicago to be closer to her family and me, but she hated the weather. Her true love in life was her sister, Marni, and every dog she ever met, especially Habby. While phone calls and visits became less and less, the times we spoke were always remembering the great times we shared together. Lisa, I miss you already. Thank you for laughing with me, crying with me, and for creating a lifetime of amazing memories. Gone but never forgotten. You'll be forever in my heart, Lisa Rae, and I will forever be the big sister that Marni can lean on. I don't know what I did with my mask. I will.
Of course. Is this yours, dear?
No, that's not my,
Okay.
I don't think,
It's
maybe.
okay. It'll be here if it is. Thank you so much. Lisa was obviously, as you heard, dear sister to Marni and sister-in-law to Dan, and was a dear Auntie Lisa to Adam and Danny. I was told she liked to come as many games as she could to cheer you on in your activities. We shared that Adam, you loved seeing your Auntie Lisa when you could. And Danny, I'm told that you shared many wonderful years of closeness with short pants, long pants, square pants. And you depended on her shoulder so you could lean on it and confide in her. In Hebrew, the word for aunt is doda, which translates to beloved one. And she will, I pray, remain that always in your minds. Elaine, Howard, Joel, Barbara. This is a nightmare for every parent's fears from the days their child is born. It's not the way the world is meant to be in our rational minds. You expressed to me and asked me to share on your behalf how thankful you are for everyone who has shown up today and those who are watching on live stream. People that have reached out to you and people that will yet continue to reach out to you. The helplessness we feel to be of any comfort to you is palpable on our behalf. Allow me to share a very short story. There was a mother who was waiting for her daughter to return home from school. She was now 30 minutes late. When she did arrive, her mother calmly reprimanded her. "Honey, why are you late? Where were you? I was very worried." The little girl looked up to her mother and said, "Well, while I was walking home, I noticed Amy sitting on the sidewalk, picking up her doll that had fallen and it had broken. So I stopped to help." "Oh, how nice," her mother said. I didn't know that you would know how to fix her doll." The little girl replied, "Oh, I don't, Mommy. I just helped her cry." And that's all we can do for you today. We can't change reality. You can just be by your side, let you cry, and cry along with you. We share tears of disbelief and pain. She was your Lulu Ray, you said, Joel. And you shared that the hole in your heart today, you know, will remain forever. You had admitted to me also that she shared many traits of yours and some habits as well. Most of your memorable nights with her are ones which simply included, you said, constant laughter. In part because her laugh was quite infectious. You gave her the roots and you gave her the leash that she needed to become herself. I know you gave her all that you could, even her diabetes, you joked. She was your little muzzik and shall remain so. Elaine, your connection to Lisa is deeper than words I could find. It was due to your mothering that Lisa felt so loved as a child. She modeled your love for cooking, and she would watch you in earnest. I'm not sure if the garlic Caesar salad recipe is yours, but I know that's one that people bragged about often. You recall some of Lisa's mischievous moments as endearing now. Then, I'm not so sure, but now you found them endearing. You told me at the age of 4, she took money out of her piggy bank and walked to the store to buy a couple of candy bars. And then you shared some of her creative responses to your inquiries of, where did you get the money? Her replies ranged from, I found it in my shoe, to the top of the closet. Her young spirit was already developing into a woman who despised boundaries. The candy kid would grow up, and ironically, her first job, you told me, was at a gumball factory. You recalled as well stories of her assisting you as mommy's helper, picking up Marni from the crib and carrying her downstairs. Intentions notwithstanding, you told me she dropped her. And Marni, we will hear from in a few moments. Those bumps and bruises which she inflicted in you, I imagine always accidentally, didn't deter you from becoming very, very devoted. Even when she tried to blame you for some of the mischief in the house, such as signing your name to the scene of the crime in ink. But Elaine, you were quick to realize, being Marni was 4 years her junior, she was too young to have signed her name. And thus the investigation as to who wrote on the couch was over. You told me as well that you would often be startled at night as Lisa was living out of state when she might call you later in the evenings. You'd be concerned something was wrong. You picked up the phone only to find out she just wanted to touch base and maybe hit you up for a recipe or two that she wanted to prepare. Cash too. Howard, you shared with me the first time you met Lisa, you spritzed whipped cream in her mouth. You knew the way to the candy kid's heart was through sweetness. Her mouth was what you would then come to be impressed with as an adult. She had a pisk. You boasted of her lack of fear to sell, her ability to work the customer, to make the sale. As Marni said, she could talk the moose off the wall. The title of her proposed biography might be, we said, The Gift of Gab. It's why her business began to flourish. Her ability to engage and connect with people was truly magical. Each of you marveled at her comfort selling her products, notably t-shirts. You boasted of how the fire departments in town all trusted her and then bought from her. If Marni said, if you could hear or talk, she could sell you. Joel recounted how happy she was when she made that giant $2,000 sale of t-shirts. And Steve mentioned it was for a Harley Davidson biker charity. I couldn't get the name, Mud. There you go. No wonder I couldn't get it. Mudbug Boogie, which raised money through the USO to buy phone cards for soldiers. Steve, as one of the cross-eyed creeps, you shared with us that while there were Tom and Jerry years of sibling wrestling between you, as adults you would find your way and you would become close. And while Sassy could be a woman who stood her ground based on her beliefs and her principles, you said she also brought a lot of laughter into the world. You recall skiing together when you were younger and how when she moved west, she found so many more opportunities to enjoy that sport she loved. Her journeys from Chicago to Arizona and Wisconsin back to Texas always had her on the move. She hated the cold, you told me. And while she is back here now, the warmth of knowing she's being laid to rest beside her beloved Grandma Shirley, I hope is warming and a blessing. I know you will find joy in believing that she is now also reunited with her precious Habby and running with him in a heavenly park somewhere. Though Lisa was a member of the cross-eyed creeps, you taught me she had a wonderful eye for photography. Steve, you said you still appreciate a picture she took long ago, which was of nothing more than a brick wall, but you declared that it was just that perfect shot. And you recalled as well her love of music, such as Peter Gabriel and the Grateful Dead. She loved music and she loved to dance. And as a young girl who ran track and taught aerobics eventually, it's easy to imagine the grace that she had on the dance floor. Marni, I'm going to mess it up. It was Buggy, Boogie. I'll leave it up to you to clarify for us. But she was much more than just a big sister from whom you could steal clothing. You looked up to her. You said you even wanted to look like her, cutting off your lock of curls to match her Dorothy Hamill hairdo. You would become inseparable as you matured and she became your best friend. You would text and you would talk daily, multiple times. And you shared with me that simply being in one another's company was reason for laughter because you had an intuitive connection with one another. You spoke of how Lisa wished to have found lasting love in a life partner, but she did have lasting love with you and the family through her family, for her circle of friends, and her professional accomplishments as well. I know you stated this, Marni, and it's obvious to everybody here and watching that this has to be the hardest and saddest day of your life. It's brave of you to speak with us, but you have already showed your courage and devotion to Lisa when you traveled to be by her side in the most sacred moment of life. And you shared with me that the support of your cousin Sherry, who was there, was invaluable during this time to support you. And I know we all want to hear your loving words. So if you could come forward, please.
We're not supposed to be here. This world we're living in is not fair. And our dear Lisa didn't deserve this way to end her story. I'd like to thank everyone for the support during this last month. All of your calls, texts, emails, responses on Caring Bridge, dog walks, flowers, gift cards, donations, dinners, hugs, and especially prayers helped ease this horrific ordeal. There are two people that I must mention individually. To my dear husband, Dan, you have shown your never-ending love and support for me during this difficult time. And I also need to thank my cousin Sherry from Austin, who could not be here today with us today. I don't know if I would have been able to make it through that horrific day without you by my side. And I do thank you from the bottom of my heart. Anyone that knew Lisa would say that she lit up a room upon entry. That beautiful smile, vivacious personality, and contagious laugh were instantly recognizable and always memorable. Lisa would be in awe to see you all here. She would be running around the room, talking to everyone, even the people that she didn't know. She definitely had the gift of gab. Along with this gift, she also had the wonderful eye for photography, and everywhere she went, she would take the most breathtaking pictures. Again, to reiterate that I've heard stories about how excited Lisa was when I was born. She had a new doll and a new toy to play with. She would pick me up out of my crib and walk around with me, and including one time dropping me down the stairs. I guess that explains a lot. And then when I would be in my bouncy seat, she would pull it down and catapult me out of it. I'm not sure if it was the excitement of a new toy or the jealousy of a new baby sister stealing her thunder. As we grew, I was her little bratty sister that went into her room, bowed her clothes without permission, went through her drawers. Who would think, as adults, that we would share all of our belongings, thoughts, dreams, and most memorable moments together? Bugsy, Schmuggenheimer, Fritz, Mickey, Freddie, Rupert, Not Mother. These were just a few of the words in our secret sister language. We could just say one word to each other and make each other crack up. Her laugh would make you laugh. Her smile would make you smile. And her charm would win you over instantly. Lisa was not only my sister, but my best friend. We talked and texted multiple times a day if it was just an I love you or an I miss you. That void that I'm feeling is irreplaceable. Danny and Adam, being your aunt was her favorite role. She would always say that you were the babies that she never had. She was the cool aunt, and she loved you both dearly and would brag about you often. Lisa was never an animal person until she rescued Rehab. Habby, as she called her, was by her side through thick and thin. And now Lisa is running in heaven with her. Lisa, I hope you're hanging out with Grandma Shirley and everyone that you loved who has passed. Now you can eat all the candy you want without worrying about your diabetes. You can dance in your high heels with no foot pain and play with your puppy again. I am both so saddened and honored that I was there holding your hand for your last breath. I don't want to say goodbye. My life is forever changed, and my heart has a huge hole without you. I was your guardian angel for the last month, and now you can be mine. I love you, sister.
Good job, Kayla. Good job.
Lisa deserved more time, but she will not be a simple statistic in the annals of COVID plague, but she will be celebrated. She will be celebrated for her distinct identity and her purpose in the world. What was her purpose? Allow me to make an assumption. There was a story taught in the Talmud of a scholar who was standing in a marketplace when Elijah the prophet appeared to him. The scholar asked, "Is there anybody here in the market that has a share in the life of the world to come?" Elijah looked around and said, "No, not right now, there's not." And then two men appeared, and Elijah changed his answer and said, those two will have a share in the world to come. Surprised, the scholar asked them what they had done to earn such a place, a reward to be in God's presence for eternity. And they answered, "We are but merrymakers. When we see people troubled in mind, we cheer them. And when we see two men quarreling, we try to make peace between them." Though Lisa had lived physically distant from many of you for some time now, and now she will be painfully physically absent from your lives, I hope there is comfort knowing that she is assured a place in the world to come for the love and for the laughter she brought into this world, and that her soul will reunite with Grandma Shirley and others as they await your arrival someday for quite some time from now. But they will be together. There's a poem I want to offer by a Reverend Henry Scott Holland, with which we will conclude this portion of our service. He writes the following: "Death is nothing at all. It doesn't count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was between you and I. The old life that we lived so fondly together, that time is untouched and shall forever be unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, we still are. So talk to me, call me by the old familiar names that you used. Speak of me in the easy way that you spoke. Put no difference in your tone, wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow when you speak of me. Laugh, Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed. Play, smile. Take some time to think of me and pray for me. And let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without any effort, without a ghost of a shadow upon it. For life means all that it ever has meant. It's the same as it ever was. And there is an absolute and unbroken continuity between us. What is death but nature merely taking its course as a river runs to the ocean? And thus, why should I be out of mind just because I'll be out of sight? Know that I am waiting for you for an interval of time somewhere very near, just around the corner. And believe for me that all is well. Nothing is hurt, nothing is lost. And one brief moment in the future, and all will be as it was before, we shall be together. And how then we shall laugh at the trouble of parting at this moment, when it is that we will meet again. May it be that you all continue to live with Lisa in your hearts and your lives, and someday, have a chance to laugh together when you realize the sadness of this moment is but a moment in time, but your souls will be connected for eternity. We pray that she rest in peace, of course. I'd like to chant a prayer. Thank you. I'd like to chant a prayer. If you're comfortable to stand, that would be appropriate. If you're not comfortable to stand, it's absolutely respectful to remain seated. Eloi selichot, Chanun rachum erachapayim v'rav chesed, hametzech haparat pesha v'hakravat yesha, umnucha nechona tachat kanfei ashchina. B'ma'alot kedoshim utorim, ki zohar rakia mazirim, et nishmat rinana bat Yosef ve'Esther Malka shalachat mi'olama. Malrachamim, Zachra la letova, kol zichuyoteha v'tzidkoteha be'artzot ha'chaim, uvtach la sharei tzedek me'ora, sharei chemla v'chanina, b'seter knafecha stira li'olamim, u'tzeror v'tzeror ha'chaim v'nishmata Adonai hu nalata v'tanuach b'shalom mishkava v'nomar amen. Exalted God, creator of us all, we ask you to have compassion. We ask you to have compassion over Lisa's family and help them to heal. We ask you to be the loving parent of us all as you welcome back one of your children into the heavenly sphere. We pray that Lisa's soul be granted infinite rest amongst all the other holy and pure souls. She now comes to you to dwell in her eternal home. We ask, dear God, that all of the righteous and beautiful things she did in this time of her life be her ticket, her fast pass through the gates of heaven, so that she find her eternal rest in your embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bonds of a life eternal. May the next time this family have reason to gather only be a sweet day, a day of joy and love and celebration. Amen.
Amen.
This does conclude the service here at the chapel. The family will receive condolences today at the Weier residence, 269 Bingham Circle in Mundelein. That'll be today from 3:30 until 5:30, and then again 7 until 9. And then tomorrow from 1 until 3 and 7 till 9. The information is on your folders with the date, address, and the hours. It's also on our website, so either way you can attend with the addresses there. The family will be going to Westlawn Cemetery. That's 7801 West Montrose Avenue. If you're going in procession, the procession will be lining on the west side of the building. Please keep in mind a few safety features while in the procession. Keep your bright headlights on at all times. Put your emergency blinkers on. Attach the orange funeral sticker to the passenger portion of your front windshield. And we'll also attach a flag to the roof of your car, and please stay as close as safety permits to the car in front of you. The following people have been selected to serve as pallbearers. When I call your name, if you please step forward. Dan Weier, Adam Adaska, Aaron Glabman, Stuart Gold, Neil Bacher, and Lee Michaels. At this time, I would ask that everyone please rise as the family, the cantor, are escorted from the chapel.
Just don't back up there.
This does conclude the service here at the chapel. Thank you.